So guys, what if Naruto is neglected by family-trained goddess Amaterasu? Special movie. A woman looking around the age of 18 could be seen standing in front of another two women who looked in their early to mid-20s and were sitting on two thrones so beautiful and exquisite that the two pieces of art could only be forged by gods. The two women sitting on the thrones could only be defined in a single word: goddesses, with their appearances so pristine and beautiful that even the most stoic men and gods would die by huge nosebleeds. The two goddesses sitting on the thrones were Kami and Yami, the two supreme goddesses who had unmatched power and wisdom in all of the three realms. In front of them was a huge hall with a wide walkway in the middle of it that ran from the huge double doors at the end of the hall to the steps in front of the two thrones. The whole hall was decorated with precious metals and stones far more valuable than the entire money in the whole elemental nations. There were many more thrones alongside the walkway, which were also beautiful but lacked the same beauty as the first two. On the many thrones sat many gods and goddesses: Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Izanagi, Izanami, Inari, Shinigami, and many other ones. All of them rarely had the same opinion on the many subjects discussed in the court, but today was such a day where every single one of them had a serious expression on their face and all of them were looking towards a single figure standing in front: the two supreme goddesses. The woman in question was tall up to 56 feet, had long waist-length midnight black hair with an unearthly shine to it. She was wearing what appeared to be a very fine kimono, which was black in color decorated with red rose petals. Her face matched the beauty of Kami and Yami with everything: lips, nose, ears, eyes in perfect places and perfect shapes. She had a light pink-colored lipstick on and a very light shade of mascara. The shape of her face looked to be a combination of Kami and Yami but was still unique. Her body was that of a goddess's with perfect shape and all necessary curves in right places. The woman in question was none other than the goddess of sun, Amaterasu. She was currently looking straight into the eyes of both the goddesses sitting in front of her, a feat that could get any other god killed and erased from existence but not her. She was powerful than all others present except the two mentioned before, and even then her power was slightly less than from the two sitting in front of her. The silence of the court was broken when Kami spoke up. "Do you understand the consequences of what you are asking, Amaterasu?" Kami asked with a slightly stern expression on her face and a calm voice. Besides her, Yami also had a small frown on her face. "Yes, I do, Kami-sama," replied Amaterasu with a determined and a calm expression on her face and an equally calm voice. After a small pause, Yami's frown seemed increased slightly. "Amaterasu, we understand how you feel, and knew all along that you had a soft spot for him, and you are not alone. We also care about him, and I am sure many among the ones sitting here currently do too. He is the child of prophecy after all, you know that." But going so far, Yami trailed off from her speech after seeing the expression on the woman in question's face. Amaterasu still had the same expression on her face, but it had slowly started to change into a look of fury, but the change had stopped once Yami ended her dialogue, but she could still see it in her, Amaterasu, eyes. Kami sighed in what seemed to be in resignation and spoke up. "It seems her decision is final, Yami-chan, and besides she can make her own decisions, we can only question them, not judge or deny them." She again sighed and stood up. "I, Kami the goddess of life, approve of the goddess of sun, Amaterasu's decision of making Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze as her life partner to whom she will be bound for all eternity, and this change will be irreversible for all eternity." Murmurs and gasps of surprise could be heard from everyone in the court except Amaterasu, who had a small content and a happy smile on her face. Kami looked at Yami, who also sighed and stood up. "I, Yami the goddess of death, approve of the goddess of sun, Amaterasu's decision of making Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze as her life partner to whom she will be bound for all eternity, and this change will be irreversible for all eternity." As soon as Yami finished her announcement, chaos broke in the court with many gods standing and shouting their disapproval. The goddesses looked surprised as well as baffled. Soon everyone felt a spike of power from the two supreme goddesses and froze. "I will not tolerate any form of misconduct in this court, and our decision is final. Anyone who does want to oppose it, keep standing, and the rest will sit down quietly till I say so. Is it clear?" Kami spoke in a dangerous voice and narrowed eyes, daring anyone to say otherwise, but all the gods who were standing and scared wisely chose to sit down and keep their traps shut. Kami sat down and sighed, looking over to the cause of all this trouble still standing in front of her, basking in happiness which showed in both her smile and eyes, and then looked at the disgruntled-looking gods sitting in the hall. She of course understood why they were acting in such a fashion. After all, Amaterasu was the third most beautiful goddess after them, Kami and Yami, as well as third in power too. Therefore, due to combined effect of this, she was the most sought-after goddess by all the gods for a life partnership. While such a thing mostly happened between lower gods and goddesses, which was mainly to increase their power and influence. It was not an uncommon knowledge that most gods hoped to bag one of the higher goddesses, in which Amaterasu topped the list. However, for all these millennia Amaterasu had turned down every single proposal and rarely showed any interest in such things. Even when the Rakuto Sennin, with whom many goddesses were infatuated with, had defeated the mighty Ten Tails, she had raised only an eyebrow at that and had never spared more than a glance at him. But for some reason Amaterasu had been watching Naruto since the day he was born, spending more and more time in it and also skipping many sessions of the court just for it. It had been confusing at first, but now all of it made sense. Cammy briefly wondered what would be Naruto's reaction towards such an arrangement and hoped he doesn't end up hating her for it. Though as far as she knew about him, he would never end up hating someone such as Amaterasu, as she was her most favorite goddess after Yami, who could also be a bitch sometimes. Amaterasu's personality was very calm, collected, and reserved. She rarely ever got angry, but when she did, it was never a good thing. She wondered what would be her, Amaterasu, next move, and she did not have to wait for too long. Now that the major part is out of the way, time for the next move, Amaterasu thought with a smile. I thank you with all my heart for your approval, Kami-sama. Yami-sama. Amaterasu thanked in a soft voice and bowed a little. However, I still have some things to make clear and some more things to ask. Kami and Yami both raised their single delicate eyebrows in a questioning manner and nodded her to continue. Amaterasu, seeing this, turned towards the remaining gods and goddesses. I am sure many of you are disappointed with the turn of events, but I have made my decision and expect all of you to respect it, Amaterasu said in a calm tone. However, her eyes were narrowed, and take it as an advice for the future, that in any circumstances, if a single hair of my life partner is harmed due to the actions in which either one or more of you are directly or indirectly involved. Amaterasu's eyes turned red and a bright light erupted behind her as she released her power that impressed even Kami and Yami. I will personally erase the existence of the ones responsible for it in unimaginable ways, and not even Kami-sama or Yami-sama will be able to stop me from doing it. The tone of Amaterasu's voice was so dangerous that even the two supreme goddesses felt a chill up their spine. After finishing her threat, Amaterasu turned normal and almost every other deities was frozen. Soon some of the more boastful gods regained their sense. Was that a threat, Amaterasu? Growled Susanoo, who never got along with his sister as she was far more powerful than him, and that made him intensely jealous of her. She looked at him. No, a mere advice to watch your steps from now on, dear brother, Amaterasu stated in what seemed to be a mixture of pleased and warning tone. Yami, who saw that things were going out of hand, soon intervened. I want you to take it as a threat, Susanoo, due to your history with your sister, and Yami told Susanoo and turned towards the rest of them. What Amaterasu said is to be taken as a forewarning by everyone here, and we will fully support her actions should she be forced to carry out her warning on anyone here. Is it clear? Many gods paled at hearing it. Getting a warning from Amaterasu was one thing, but with Kami and Yami supporting her, it was a completely different territory which no one wanted to enter. Thank you, Yami-sama. Amaterasu smiled at Yami, who smiled back. But I still have some things to ask. Amaterasu looked for their permission, who nodded. She continued. Amaterasu took a deep breath. As you must have guessed that I will be going to the human world to talk to Naruto Uzumaki about my decision, but I am also going to gift him some skills that I see fit, for which I want your permission to borrow some powers from Tsukuyomi and Susanoo as my compensation for their actions against me in the past, which I still haven't forgiven. Amaterasu finished and looked at the two deities in front of her, who looked to be contemplating about what she had said. The whole court was in silence as no one wanted to interfere in the talk between higher ones, not after one of them had given a direct threat. However, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo seemed to be barely holding it. I suppose that can be done easily, as you had not received any form of compensation from either of them for their transgressions. Kami agreed and turned towards the two suspiciously purple-faced gods, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo. Both of them under my order will give a part of their power to Amaterasu as a compensation for your past actions, and don't be under the impression that you have a choice. Kami ordered in a final voice and motioned the two gods to come up in the front. Tsukuyomi and Susanoo got up from their respective seats and walked towards the three goddesses stiffly, as if they were having an internal fight with their own body against the motion. When they reached there, they walked behind Amaterasu and placed their hands just above her shoulders. As soon as they did this, their hands were enveloped in blue fire and seemed to be burning, which showed, as both the gods cringed slightly. After all, getting one's power sapped out hurts a lot. After ritual ended, both gods could feel their powers drained out and were glaring at Amaterasu. After that, both of them went back and sat at their respective places. Now that is out of the way, is there anything else you want? Amaterasu queried Kami. No. I have everything I want, Kami-sama, but thank you for asking. But now I must take my leave. My job is still unfinished, replied Amaterasu with a smile as she bowed in gratitude and took some steps backward and was soon engulfed in black flames, and the flames extinguished to show that she had left. Kami and Yami both released tired sighs, both mentally exhausted due to the recent events, and dismissed the court. All gods left in their own fashion, like Susanoo with wind and lightning rotating around him. With Tsukuyomi, he was enveloped in white light and faded away with it. When Kami and Yami saw that everyone has left, Yami turned towards Kami. Times are going to be interesting from now on, don't you agree with me, sister? Yami said with a mischievous smile on her face. Kami returned the smile with her own mischievous one. Indeed, my dear sister. Both of them giggled, and soon a mirror-like screen appeared in front of them showing that Amaterasu had just arrived in Naruto's apartment, who freaking out at her sudden appearance. Indeed, the future had just become interesting. Hidden Leaf Village. It was nighttime in the village hidden in the leaves, or Hidden Leaf Village. The whole village looked peaceful with a full moon shining down on it and a light breeze flowing was through it. Most of the villagers were asleep while many shinobi could be seen patrolling the village. Only a couple of lights were on while the whole village was bathed in moonlight, and one of the lights belonged to the apartment of none other than the village's resident Jinchuriki, whose life was about to take an interesting turn. With Uzumaki Naruto was an orphan of average height for a 12-year-old with sunny blonde hair. Fair complexion skin with light tan and bright blue eyes. However, his most distinctive feature was the whisker marks on his face, 3 on each cheek. He was sitting on the floor of his apartment and was wearing a white t-shirt with an Uzumaki swirl on the back of it and black shorts. His hands were held in a ram, Hitsuji, hand seal, and there was a book on his head, and on top of it was a vase. His eyes were closed in concentration and beads of sweat could be seen on his face. Come on. I just have to concentrate for some more time and my chakra control will improve. Then I will be able to do the clone technique. Come on, thought Naruto in desperation as he continued to concentrate. This exercise was explained to them in the academy. It helped in chakra control as we have to focus chakra on the top of our head to keep the vase balanced. It would have worked for normal academy students who were in final year, but Naruto's chakra reserves were anything but normal. He already had more chakra than the Sandaime Hokage, not that he knew that. It was mainly because of the 9-tailed demon fox sealed into him at his birth by the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze. Which was also a fact he did not know. The villagers and some shinobi of the village affectionately, note the sarcasm, called him Kyuubi or Kyuubi brat or demon and many other names that proved that he was a demon. Naruto was a prankster in the academy, continuously pranking many teachers, villagers who hated him, some shinobi, etc., and therefore earned the nickname Prankster King from Hell. He was hated by a majority of the village. Some were neutral towards him while only a handful cared about him, which included the Hokage and the Ichiraku father-daughter duo. But currently, he cared about nothing else other than focusing on the task at hand, which was interrupted when suddenly, a mysterious breeze entered the room and started whirling in the center of it. Naruto hurriedly opened his eyes after feeling the wind pick up, thinking that he had forgotten to close his window and cursed himself. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the wind whirling in the center of his room, which confused him, which led to him losing his concentration, and the vase fell from his head on the floor and broke into pieces. As soon as it happened, the lights in his room went off. Silence. Naruto had not moved from his spot from when the lights went off. Now Naruto might be hated by the whole village and was forced to grow up a bit faster than the other kids of his age, but he was still a 12-year-old. He was a Shinobi Academy student but still had the mind of a 12-year-old, and any kid of his age would interpret sudden mysterious wind circling the center of the room and lights going off in the middle of the night as only one thing: ghosts. As soon as Naruto's 12-year-old mind reached the conclusion, he paled and broke in a cold sweat. Not daring to make a single move, he was able to stutter out a sentence. Is anybody there? I don't think it is the wisest question you ask someone, especially to whom you perceive to be a ghost. A melodious female voice replied to Naruto's question after a pause of 3 seconds. Naruto blinked after hearing such a beautiful voice in his room, his fear forgotten for a second, and then he blinked again when his mind figured out that he had just heard another voice in the room when he should have been alone. His reaction did not disappoint. Kyaa. Naruto's unmanly scream, which surely would have knocked him down many pegs on the manliness scale, was silenced by a soft hand covering his mouth. Naruto opened his eyes, which he had closed when he had let out the scream, and was gifted with a sight which no man or woman that has ever graced the human world had ever seen. There was still darkness in his room, however a dull light seemed to illuminate the room, which strangely reminded him of moonlight. But all of his attention was captured by the goddess in front of him. She had long silky waist-length shiny black hairs, her face the most beautiful thing he had ever come across. Which was saying a lot since he had seen the likes of Kurenai Yuhi. She had soft pink lips which were curved in a small smile, and her eyes were coal black and seemed to dance with amusement. His eyes traveled down along her body, which was covered in a black kimono and had rose petals on it, not to mention it looked tad expensive. She looked to around the age of 18 or 19, but there was a different aura around her which he could not place, which was saying something, as he could get a feel of any person he came across. It was a skill he had developed when he was small. Naruto, however, came to his senses and was about to try and struggle in the grip when he saw an assuring smile on the woman's face. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun. I am not a ghost. I assure you, but you have to promise me that you will not shout when I remove my hand. I just wanted to talk, please," Amaterasu said in such a soft and assuring voice that Naruto could not help but give her a shaky nod. Now he, Naruto, was not the most trusting person, as he had been duped more than enough times, but something about this woman in front of him told him to believe her, to place his trust in her, and Naruto was not a person to betray his instincts. After seeing Naruto nod, albeit shakily, she removed her hand from his mouth and looked at him thoroughly, taking in all of his features, which took only a second, as it was the first time she was seeing him in person. Naruto saw her looking at him intently, though only for a second, but it made him feel almost naked, as if she was seeing right through his clothes. He shook his head and dismissed his thoughts and decided it was time he got his answers from the strange yet very beautiful woman. "So, who are you? As you said, you are not a ghost?" Naruto asked nervously. Amaterasu seemed to be thinking for a second and shrugged. "I know that what I am saying might sound very strange, but I am a goddess," she replied with total seriousness. Now Naruto knew that he might not be the sharpest kunai in the pouch, but he wasn't stupid. He looked over at the woman in front of him and could honestly say that he was tempted to believe her, but simple logic and common sense overruled his thought process. Amaterasu noticed that he looked skeptic over her claim to be a goddess and was not surprised. After all, it was not every day that you appear in front of someone and claim to be a deity. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her and felt as if he was being pranked by some shinobi who decided it was funny to mess with the prankster king from hell. But I should at least give her a chance to prove herself, as all shinobi know that the title of prankster king from hell is well earned by me, Naruto thought. "Okay. I will give you a chance to prove yourself that you are a goddess and that this is not a prank," Naruto said, even though he was betting that this was a prank. Amaterasu raised a delicate eyebrow at his statement and began to think of something that would convince him that she was telling the truth. As she was thinking, she saw the full moon through his window and remembered the powers she had taken from Tsukuyomi. She smirked. She sat beside him and noticed that he was watching her like a hawk, again not surprising, as she had observed him for his whole life and knew that he is usually cautious around strangers. "It is going to take a lot of effort on my part to make things work," she thought. "Do you see the full moon?" she asked him while pointing towards the moon. He nodded and wondered where she was going with this. "I will make it disappear." With that, she extended her hand towards the moon, made a waving motion, and soon the moon disappeared right before Naruto's and all others who were watching eyes. Naruto looked baffled for a second and ran towards the window. After opening it, he peered out to look at the moon. All of it had disappeared and only a faint white circular outline was present on its place. The village, once bathed in the moonlight, had gone completely dark. His enhanced eyes caught the sight of some shinobi having similar reaction to the unreal phenomenon. He looked towards the goddess and the remaining white ring in the sky many times, even going as far as trying to dispel a genjutsu, but nothing changed. "Holy Mother of Ramen, it's real. The woman just made the freaking moon disappear." Naruto thought in awe and some amount of disbelief. Is she really a goddess? He slowly turned to look at Amaterasu, who had an amused expression on her face. He gulped. "But why would a freaking goddess appear in my room? I didn't do anything to face the wrath of one." He furiously worked his mind to come up with an explanation. "I know you have many questions, Naruto-kun, and I would gladly answer them. That is if you are done freaking out and let me explain some things," Amaterasu said, still having an amused expression on her face. Naruto, after listening to what she said, immediately sat down near the window, which was almost 10 feet away from her, with a nervous expression on his face and beads of sweat still rolling down his face, but this time due to sheer nervousness. However, in his nervousness he completely overlooked her usage of an affectionate suffix after his name. Amaterasu frowned slightly at the distance he kept from her. It was kind expected, but that didn't mean she has to be okay with it. He was her life partner after all. "I guess I will start by telling you my name. My name is Amaterasu, and if you are thinking that I came here to punish you or something like that, I assure you that is not the case," she explained, and Naruto let out a sigh of relief. She paused a bit and thought of how to tell him that he was bonded to her for the rest of eternity, as she knew about his crush, aka the pink-haired human banshee hybrid howler monkey. She also wanted to tell him why he was hated by the village so much. She sighed deeply, all amusement leaving her face, and Naruto instantly had a sinking feeling in his stomach. Am I dying? Please, I don't want to die yet. I haven't even passed the academy, and then I have to win Sakura-chan's love, and I have to become the Hokage too. Please, 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 he chanted in his mind. I want you to pay full attention to what I am going to say. When she saw he was giving her his full attention, she continued. I have been watching over you since the day you were born, Naruto-kun. I know you are not liked by the majority of the village, and I know the reason why. I will tell you that in time, but first you need to know that. She slowly moved towards him, all the time looking straight in his eyes. You are no demon, you are the purest soul that has ever graced the human world. You are a light which burns brightly even when it is surrounded by darkness from all sides and threatened to consume you. She reached up to him and held his face in both of hands, which stopped Naruto, who was starting to lean back due to the close distance between them. You are a person who cherishes the people he loves. You have hatred, but your unique power to forgive and bring the good out of others far surpasses it. And she brought his face close to her, her lips nearing his. That is the reason I feel in love with you, she finished, and brought both their lips together in a chaste kiss, pouring all her feelings for him as well as a part of her power that she had wished to share with him. The whole time Naruto sat there with eyes wide, unbelieving eyes, unable to comprehend what was going on. This woman who proved herself to be a goddess had said that she had observed him from the time he was born, knew the reason he was hated, said that he was the purest soul, then confessed to him that she loved him, and was now kissing him. He idly wondered if he was having a nightmare or his first wet dream, as it was too surreal to be real. He soon felt her pull back and noticed that her eyes were closed in pure bliss. He tried to lean back, but her hands soon went behind him and pulled him into a hug. They simply sat there with Naruto not being able to comprehend the situation, and Amaterasu in happiness at being so close to her love. They soon separated, and Naruto asked the obvious question. What the hell is going on? Is this a dream or is it for real? And did you just say that you love me? Naruto asked, perplexed, still not getting over his shock. No, this is not a dream, I promise you, and yes, I just said that I loved you. Is it so hard to believe? She answered. Naruto's jaw unhinged for a second. This is not a dream. Yeah, of course it is not. Dreams are not so real-like, but, he thought. But how is it possible? I mean, gods aren't supposed to fall in love with human. I have never heard of such a thing. I mean, I heard your reasons, but still, it is very hard to believe such a thing, he replied, still perplexed. Amaterasu giggled, and if Naruto was honest with himself, it was one of the most beautiful sounds he had ever heard. I can imagine, but I am not lying, Naruto-kun. I took permission of Kami-sama for it, and it is obviously not the first time it has happened that a deity has fallen in love with a human. She cleared his doubts about the situation. I didn't know. Sorry for doubting you, Amaterasu-sama, he apologized and bowed. No Amaterasu-sama for you. It's either simply Amaterasu or Amaterasu-chan, or you can give me a nickname as long as I like it, and no apologizing for things you did not know, she corrected him, giving him a smile. Naruto looked uncomfortable with the whole situation and simply looked away. After some time he looked at her. It's just that I am a bit uncomfortable with the whole thing and don't know what to say. A part of me is still saying that it is a delusion and I never even dreamed of this. I need time to think and clear my thoughts, he said apologetically. It's totally alright. I am sorry if it makes you uncomfortable, but there are still things that I need to tell you as I am running low on time, she said. I don't know if you have noticed, but I have shared a part of my powers with you. Naruto blinked and then realized that he had never felt so good in his entire life. He had not paid attention to it first, but during the kiss he had felt another chakra entering his body. His chakra reserved were bigger and his chakra also felt stronger. His control had also increased exponentially. He felt a sense of awe and looked towards her and nodded in affirmative. Amaterasu looked pleased that he had liked her gifts so much and began to explain them. As you have noticed, your chakra has grown stronger and has increased in quantity. Your control on it has also increased, but there is more to it. She paused and thought of how to explain him his extra powers. She came to the conclusion that she will have to explain him her own powers first. Then he will understand his, but first you have to understand that my powers lie in controlling all types of fire. And yes, there are many types of fire, she explained, seeing he was about to ask about different types of fire. The most common is the fire you humans use, which is a mixture orange and red color. The next type is white in color and has a higher temperature than common fire. Next is the blue fire or foxfire, which is hotter than white fire. The last and the most powerful is the black fire, which is the hottest, cannot be extinguished even by water, and burns till the target is dead or for 7 days and 7 nights. My powers also include genjutsu and physical manifestation of objects using chakra. The powers I have granted you allow you to master all types of fire to a certain degree. Imperviousness to genjutsu of Upta. According to human ranking systems say a rank and ability of making chakra solid and using it for various purposes. Her eyes softened. If it would have been possible then I would have given all of my powers to you to keep you safe and survive this world, but alas, she smiled sadly at him. I have some rules to follow. I cannot help you anymore. I am sorry. She looked down and sniffed. I am really sorry that I cannot do more for you. That I could not help you for all these years. I am sorry. Her heartfelt apology was cut off when Naruto hugged her tightly to himself. Hey now. Please don't cry. I understand. You don't have to say anymore, he said as he rubbed her back in a comforting way. He had been getting increasingly excited when she was explaining him his abilities and was thinking of some way he could express his gratitude and do something nice for her. But it all went down when she started to sniff and apologize. One thing he could not stand was a girl crying, be it a normal female or a goddess. Sigh. She sounded that she really wanted to help me and cares for me. No one had ever cared for him other than the Hokage and Ichiraku's. But it barely filled the empty gap in his heart, the part of him that always longed for true love and care, the part that wanted someone to be there for him all the time. And here was a goddess who loved and cared for him all along, wanted to be there for him, giving him a heartfelt apology for not doing things for him that his parents should have done. It brought tears in his eyes that there was at least someone apologized for the pain he had to suffer every day from the day of his birth. He was feeling it difficult to contain his own tears at the revelation. Amaterasu was blushing slightly at the way he held her, and felt a need to never let go of him, but sadly they were running out of time. She still had to tell him the reason he was hated by the village. Sighing sadly she let go of him and noticed that there were tears in his eyes too. Smiling sadly she wiped his tears with the back of her hand. It must be very touching for him to know that someone unknown loves him so much, she thought sadly. Naruto-kun, before I tell you what you had always wanted to know, I want you to know that you are not a demon or any of the things that the people have told you. You are a human like every single one of them, all right? Promise me that you will never think otherwise. He nodded with unshed tears in his eyes and in happiness that he was not a monster as the villagers had always claimed. As you know, 12 years ago, Konoha was attacked by the nine-tailed demon fox and it was defeated as well as killed by Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, who also died while doing the deed. She paused to look at him and saw him looking at her intently. It caused her to blush slightly, not that he noticed. The parts of the story like demon attacking the village and the Hokage dying are true, however the Kyuubi no Yuko is still alive. What? How is that possible? Iruka-sensei said it died when the Yondaime used a special jutsu that no one knows to kill it. Naruto exclaimed in shock. Amaterasu stared at him sadly, thinking of how he would react to the truth and was almost tempted to avoid telling him the truth, but figured that he would come to know of it one day and might end up going in a depression or worse, which was the last thing she wanted for him. Steeling her resolve, she decided to come out with it. Any jutsu, no matter how powerful it is incapable kill a biju. It was a cover-up the Sandaime came up with to hide the truth from the younger generation. The older generation knows the truth, but a law has been placed by the Hokage with a death penalty that prevents anyone from talking about it. The truth is that the Yondaime was unable to kill the Kyuubi, so he did the next best thing to protect the village. Her face grew solemn. He sealed it into a newborn child, similar to how you use a storage scroll. He made you the container of the nine-tailed demon fox. She finished and gazed at him. Naruto was shocked at hearing the reason for the apparent hatred the village held towards him. He knew that the fox took many lives during its rampage, but still felt himself getting angry at all the people. They knew he was not the fox, only a mere container for it, but still. At least the shinobi understand the concepts of sealing, but still treated me like a demon. But then why? Why for all these years? Tears came to his eyes as the facts appeared in front of him. Then did my parents abandon me? Be because they also thought of me as the Kyuubi? Silent tears were rolling down his whiskered cheeks. After some time he looked at her and asked the obvious question. Why me? His voice was barely above a whisper, but Amaterasu heard it clearly. She knew the reason why. She cupped his face tenderly and spoke, because he was a father who believed in his son. He was snapped out of his stupor and looked at her with wide, unbelieving eyes. The Yondaime is my father? He asked, shocked at the revelation. She nodded. I am the Yondaime Hokage's son. But then why did he do this to me? And all these years Gigi lied to me about not knowing who my parents were. He must have known. But why did he not tell me why I was hated for all these years? Was he hoping to keep it a secret forever, thinking that I wouldn't find out? Why all these lies? He was raging mentally at the Sandaime for keeping all these things from him. He deserved to know everything, especially with what he had to endure for all his life. He was broken out of his thoughts hearing Amaterasu's voice. I understand how you must be feeling at this point, Naruto-kun, but please don't hate your father, because believe me when I say that he did not have a choice. The Kyuubi was running free, destroying everything in its path. And you were the closest available baby, and even if there would have been another one. Your father was too noble to ask another parent to give up their baby for the ceiling, as only a newborn can contain a biju. He loved you with all his heart and wished for the village to treat you as a hero who kept the Kyuubi at bay. And even though his wishes were not followed, he would have been proud of the way you have grown up. He believed in you like a parent should have, she said, calming his inner conflicting feelings. She knew she had lied to him about a lot of things that happened on that dreadful night. The fact about his mother being the previous Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, the attack of the mysterious masked man, and many other things, but he wasn't ready for those things yet. He was already at the end of his line due to some many revelations, but she would tell him the whole truth one day, as he would be the one to avenge his parents. Her thoughts were broken when Naruto asked a question. Do you know who my mother is? He asked in a hopeful voice. Yes, her name was Uzumaki Kushina, but sadly she also died the day you were born. She was a rather unique character, and if I am right, you inherit all your mannerisms from her right down to your verbal tick, she informed him. He blushed at the mention of his verbal tick and was very happy that he was so much like his mother, but sad at the same time knowing she has passed away. Can you tell me more about my mother and father? Please? 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 He gave her his own patented puppy fox eyes no jutsu, a deadlier version of puppy dog eyes no jutsu. Amaterasu, after seeing how cute he looked, killed her almost irresistible urge, let out a squeal and hug him to death, while on the outside she took deep breaths to calm herself. If he does it again, I really might lose control of my female instincts. God, that move of his is a lady killer, she thought. Yes, of course I'd be happy to do that, but we can do it the next time, as my time is almost over. She looked away from his face, which still held the cute expression. I have something for you. Huh? You want to give me something more? He asked, tilting his head a little and a bewildered expression on his face. MMHMM. Think of it as an early happy birthday present, she said, after which a katana appeared from somewhere in her hand, which she handed to him. It was easily the most beautiful katana he had ever seen, not that he had seen many. The sheath was black in color with designs on it which were golden in color. He unsheathed it to see its blade, which was pitch black in color with the sharper edge being slightly lighter in shade. The handle was double length for the usage of two hands and was also black with white designs on it. Its hilt was round in shape with a series of designs that seemed to be made out of precious stones which were liquefied and recrystallized in desired shapes. All in all, the katana looked like it would cost a gold mine or more. He looked at Amaterasu with comical happy tears in his eyes and started saying thank you over and over again, at the same time bowing repeatedly. She sweat dropped slightly at the sight in front of her as he started to hug the sword in the same way you would expect a small girl to hug her favorite plushie toy. Ahem, she gained his attention, who blushed slightly at being caught doing something that was embarrassing. She smiled slightly at that. I would like to tell you something about the sword. The sword you are holding is one of the finest pieces crafted by a blacksmith who lived a very long time ago. It has been in my possession for centuries, and now I would like you to have it as well as learn the art of kenjutsu. It is a very useful skill and also one of the very important. Naruto looked down at that. But no one would teach me anything, he said dejectedly. Amaterasu was quick to raise his spirits him as she continued to speak. Don't worry. I will provide you with the necessary scrolls and see over your training from time to time. I just wish I could spend all my time in this world with you while you are here, Sai, but it doesn't matter much, I guess. Nevertheless, we will be together again when you finish your life here and come to afterlife, where we can spend the rest of eternity with each other. She sighed wistfully and gave him a wink. Naruto was looking her the entire time and saw how much she loved him. And while he was happy, a part of him was slightly afraid too, as had never been in this kind of situation. Of course he tried to impress Sakura every day and get a date with her, but this was something different, something more deep. And she's way beautiful than Sakura-chan, and her voice is also melodious, not to mention her lips taste so sweet, better than ramen and ga. Get your mind out of gutter, Naruto. You are not a pervert, he thought while blushing and shook his head. Unfortunately, Amaterasu saw it all. My, having of perverted thoughts about me, Naruto-kun, she asked, deciding to have some fun with him as she already knew about his thoughts. And no, I was thinking something different, he said fearfully. HMPH, does that mean I am not attractive enough for you? She mock huffed, which Naruto did not catch on, downs of being a thickhead. Of course you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, he replied sincerely. Amaterasu blushed hearing the sincerity in his voice. Thank you, and you don't have to worry about not knowing what to do. We will spend as much time together as possible from now on. She leaned close to Hamon. I am sure I will be able to make you fall in love with me before you can even say Sakura. Finishing with a light peck on his lip, she leaned back and was pleased to see his face resembling a tomato. Naruto was a blushing mess due to her rather bold claim and vowed that he would also try and get to know her better, not to mention getting her back for making him embarrassed. No one gets away from me for getting embarrassed, Dadabio, he thought conspiringly. Amaterasu felt a shiver going up her spine seeing the scheming look on his face. She put it at the back of her mind and got a feeling that her time with him was up, for now. My time is up, Naruto-kun, but don't worry. I will visit again in some days, hopefully before your genin exams, she informed him as she prepared to leave and saw he was looking at her despondently. But before that, I want you to go up to your Hokage the next thing in the morning and ask him for another clone technique which you can use, but don't ask him about what you have learned today. Believe me, it will make things easier. Her form started to disappear, and train hard for your exams. I sure you will pass with flying colors. She gave him one last loving smile. And remember that I will always be watching over you and I love you. With that she disappeared. Naruto kept staring at where she was standing for a few seconds before closing his eyes and sighing tiredly. The last half an hour for him was the most emotionally draining time for him. He slowly moved towards his bed, keeping the katana in his hands in a standing position near his bed, and moved under his covers. He idly wondered that if he slept now, then will he be waking up tomorrow with or without the katana on its place, thus helping him figure out if it was all a dream or not. He hoped for the katana to be there when he woke up, and with these thoughts in mind he let sleep overcome him. Kami's court. Kami and Yami had just finished observing the interaction between Amaterasu and Naruto when black flames appeared in front of them which dissipated, revealing Amaterasu. She had a pleased expression on her face showing how happy she was with her latest confession. The two in front of her looked amused at seeing the mighty Amaterasu, the goddess of sun, going all fangirl for a human boy. It seems that you have informed Naruto-kun about your decision, and seeing that look on your face it appears that everything worked out well, nay? Yami teased the sun goddess, whose eyebrow twitched slightly but soon deadpanned. I know you two have been spying on me and Naruto-kun from the moment I left. No need to fake innocence about it, she responded in a blank voice. Ah. You need to lighten up, Amaterasu-chan. Besides, we have very less fun nowadays, and you just provided the opportunity for it. No need to accuse us for spying, Kami replied, the amused look still on her face. Sigh. Fine. I will just go and do my own things, which includes peeping at Naruto-kun. Goodbye, Amaterasu gritted out, due to the interjecting statement by Yami. As soon as she left, both the sisters burst out laughing. Oh my, we are going to have so much fun from now. Kami spoke between her laughs and Yami could not help but agree. Naruto Uzumaki stretched his hands on either side of his head, and after being stretched enough, he rested them on the bed as he blinked the sleep out of his eyes. He was lying on his bed, entangled in his blanket, which was not so surprisingly dark orange in color. He kept blinking as he looked at the ceiling of his room and realized that it still looked dark. Every morning he usually woke up when sun rays coming through the window gleamed at his closed eyes, but today, he woke up when there was still time for sun to rise fully. He glanced at his clock through the corner of his eyes while moving his head slightly in one direction. It was 6:45 a.m. Surprised and now fully awake, he moved in a sitting position and rubbed his eyes while looking at the clock. It really was 6:45 a.m. He looked out of his window and saw that it was too early in the morning. He looked around his room, but missed the katana standing beside his bed due to it being directly on his blind spot, and took in the fact that it was all dark. Now most people won't be surprised if they woke up this early in the morning, but Naruto had never been able to get up so early. It was mostly due to the Kyuubi's chakra affecting his mind when he grew up and the unhealthy diet which also stunned the growth of his brain. He did not know this fact but accepted that maybe he was a long or deep sleeper which prevented his early morning rise, and add to the fact that the academy usually started at 9 a.m., he had not bothered to stop the habit. Strange, I don't remember waking up so early before, he mused. Naruto slowly freed his legs from his blanket and stepped on the wooden floor. He stood up slowly and noticed that there was pain in legs as well as his whole body. He took a step forward and felt pain in his knees and thighs which almost made him stumble and fall flat on his face. As he kept moving towards his bathroom slowly, his mind was trying to remember what he had done last night to face such consequences at the crack of dawn. Gah! Why is my body hurting so much? I have never felt so bad before, especially in the mornings. What the hell was I doing last night? His face confronted in pain as he tried to remember, and he made his way in the bathroom sluggishly. He held onto the sink and lifted his face to look in the mirror slowly, but quickly staggered back in shock at seeing his reflection. Lifting his hands to touch his face, he traced the outline of it while moving closer to the mirror to take a clear look. Most of his face looked the same, however. There were minor changes, like his hair had grown longer by an inch and now shadowed his eyes to some extent. The small amount of baby fat he had retained was now absent, his face now held an angular look. If he was honest with himself, he looked way better than Sasuke. Surprised by such change in his appearance, he decided to get a good look at his body if there were any other changes, and at the same time find the reason for his body being in so much pain. He walked out of his bathroom with the support of a nearby wall. Entering his bedroom again, he moved in front of his full-length mirror. While moving, he noticed an odd object through the corner of his eyes but ignored it in favor of finding the reason of his discomfort, which had decreased slightly. He got rid of his clothes as quickly as he could, leaving himself only in his boxers, and he looked at his own reflection. There were some changes in his body, like his muscle mass seemed to have increased slightly. He was sporting six-pack abs, but the most surprising variation was in his height. He was definitely 2 inches taller than he had last seen himself. He traced his body with a confused look on his face as he racked his brain to come up with an explanation for these strange changes in him. What the? It's not just the face, the rest of my body too. It seems as if my whole has suddenly evolved. As he was thinking, he suddenly remembered seeing an odd object near his bed. He turned in the direction he had seen it and found himself surprised to see a black katana in a standing position near his bed. Strange. I don't remember keeping a katana near my bed. Hell, I don't even remember seeing such a katana, he pondered, and then, as if a switch had been turned on in his head, his eyes went wide the same time as the events of previous night came to him like a ton of bricks. The events flashed in front of his eyes like a fast-paced movie, the sudden breeze, then lights going off, him being frightened and calling out only to hear a melodious voice, the stunt with the moon, the whole conversation he had with Amaterasu afterwards, her confession. I have been watching over you since the day you were born, Naruto-kun. I know you are not liked by the majority of the village, and I know the reason why. I will tell you that in time, but first you need to know that. She slowly moved towards him, all the time looking straight in his eyes. You are no demon, you are the purest soul that has ever graced the human world. You are a light which burns brightly even when it is surrounded by darkness from all sides and threatened to consume you. She reached up to him and held his face in both of hands, which stopped Naruto, who was starting to lean back due to the close distance between them. You are a person who cherishes the people he loves. You have hatred, but your unique power to forgive and bring the good out of others far surpasses it. And she brought his face close to her, her lips nearing his. That is the reason I feel in love with you, she finished, and brought both their lips together in a chaste kiss. Her assuring him of not being a demon. Naruto-kun, before I tell you what you had always wanted to know, I want you to know that you are not a demon or any of the things that the people have told you. You are a human like every single one of them, alright? Promise me that you will never think otherwise. The harsh truth behind his treatment by the village. The truth is that the Yondaime was unable to kill the Kyuubi, so he did the next best thing to protect the village. Her face grew solemn. He sealed it into a newborn child, similar to how you use a storage scroll. He made you the container of the 9-tailed demon fox. Him becoming aware of the identities of his parents and that they had not abandoned him. Because he was a father who believed in his son, he loved you with all his heart and wished for the village to treat you as a hero who kept the Kyuubi at bay. And even though his wishes were not followed, he would have been proud of the way you have grown up. He believed in you. Yes, her name was Uzumaki Kushina, but sadly she also died the day you were born. She was a rather unique character, and if I am right, you inherit all your mannerisms from her right down to your verbal tick. Her gift to him, mmhmm. Think of it as an early happy birthday present, she said, after which a katana appeared from somewhere in her hand, which she handed to him. Her faith in him, her last statement before she left, in the loving smile. And train hard for your exams. I sure you will pass with flying colors. She gave him one last loving smile. Remember that I will always be watching over you, and I love you. With that she disappeared. Naruto slowly sank to his knees, his eyes still wide as he held his face with tears running down his cheeks. It wasn't a dream, it wasn't a dream, it wasn't a dream. He cried out in his mind in happiness, with tears of joy still flowing out of his eyes like an unending river. I am not alone and unwanted anymore. There is someone who loves me, and my parents didn't abandon me. He sobbed on the same spot for a few more minutes before coming to a stop. He lifted his head to reveal his puffy eyes, and cheeks resulted from shedding tears, which he wiped with the back of his hands, and stood up quickly to observe himself in the mirror again. Now I understand. These alterations must be due to Amaterasu-chan sharing some of her power with me. Not that I am complaining, but it hurts a lot. He sighed and ran his hands down his face in exasperation. He gazed at the katana again and wondered about its powers. After all, it made sense that it should have some kind of awesome power if it was in a goddess possession for so many years. He moved about his bed and picked up the gift. He unsheathed its blade, which gleamed in a beam of sunlight. He remembered her last words. But before that, I want you to go up to your Hokage the next thing in the morning and ask him for another clone technique which you can use, but don't ask him about what you have learned today. Believe me, it will make things easier." He frowned at the thought of going to the Hokage, which astonished him a bit. The old man had been a constant grandfather figure in his life, and even if he looked old he saw him as a role model for being a Hokage, but the shocking truths he learned last night caused that image of a grandfatherly Hokage to shatter into pieces. But he would go to the old man. He would demand him to give him a clone technique suited for him. In any case, the old man had a lot to make it up to him. Oh, he won't ask him anything about the lies, but the Sandame was up for a rude awakening. "Just you wait, Amaterasu-chan." Naruto held the blade in front of his face. "I will make you proud." Hokage Tower with the Sandame Hokage. If there is a person who could make any other Kage feel a shiver up their spine, then the person you are looking most probably has held the title of Hokage at some point in time. The Fire Shadow, the leader of the strongest village, Konohagakure no Sato, village hidden in leaves. The Hokage is said to be the pinnacle of the shinobi world. All the Hokages were the strongest shinobi of their time. The Shodan, Hashirama Senju, was said to be the strongest ninja after the Rakudo Sennin. With his Mokuton Jutsu and expertise in Iryo Jutsu, even Madara Uchiha would think twice before facing such an adversary. That is why he got his ass handed to him at the Valley of the End. The Nindem, Tobarama Senju, brother to the Shodan. With his unmatched talent in Suiten and Jikukan ninjutsu, he was able to take out the whole Kinkaku force, an elite shinobi unit of Kumogakure no Sato. Hiruzen Sarutobi, son of Sasuke Sarutobi, known as the Kami no Shinobi or the Professor, who has mastered every jutsu in Konoha, was known to be stronger than all the Kage of his time. Yondaime, Minato Namikaze, feared as the Konoha no Kiroi Senko, master of Jikukan ninjutsu, inventor of Rasengan and Hiraishin no Jutsu. The only shinobi to receive a SS rank in bingo books with a flea on sight order, and the father of Naruto Uzumaki. That has to count for something. We're all great ninjas with immense skill. If one imagined himself, herself standing in front of any of those, they would expect to see a well-built man with scars on his body, intimidating posture and look, with eyes that burned with fire and seemed to be looking right at your soul. However, at the present time, if one would look at the old-as time man sitting behind a desk with a funny pointy hat on his head with the kanji of fire on it, and who was smoking through a pipe while glaring daggers at a stack of papers in front of him at the same time, muttering about evil paperwork and damn you Minato, she would declare him as an senile old man. But that particular old and senile man was the Sandame Hokage of Konoha. "Damn you Minato for leaving me do all the paperwork, and if that was not enough, you just had to take the secret of finishing paperwork quickly to your grave," cursed Sandame the 38th time that morning. He had arrived in his office at the designated time in the morning, and had just started to fill his smoking pipe for his early morning dose of nicotine that his secretary had came and informed him of a council meeting that the civilian side of council members had called. Flashback. The council meeting. The Sandame entered the meeting chambers where all the civilian council members were seated on their places, i.e., on the left side of the meeting table, while the right side where the shinobi clan heads sat was empty. It was to be expected, as it the ones on the civilian council who had called the meeting. There was no need for a full council unless the matter to be discussed was very important and affected the whole village. He sat at his position that was at the head of the table, signifying him as the leader. He gave them all a hard stare which would have shaken up all of them in an instant, but today they looked very confident and determined, which made Sarutobi raise an eyebrow. Ahem, he cleared his throat. "It is 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and because of it you all better have a good reason to call this meeting, or else I would personally see to it that all of you are charged with the crime of misusing your powers," he finished with a warning tone, conveying them how pissed he was right now. A pink-haired woman who appeared to be in her mid-30s stood up. Her name was Haruno Sakuya, mother of Haruno Sakura. "I assure you, Hokage-sama, that we are here to discuss a very important matter, as it concerns the village as a whole." Sakuya spoke in a fluent tone. "I see, but then why is it that I do not see a full council then, Sakuya-san?" Sarutobi asked with narrowed eyes. He was starting to get an idea about the matter they wanted to discuss. Sakuya's confidence level dropped down a bit, seeing the leader's eyes narrow a bit, but seeing the confident looks on her fellow members' faces she regained her too. "That is because we all had personally wanted to discuss it first with you, Hokage-sama," she reasoned with him. The Sandame looked at all their faces to see that they all wore identical expressions and sighed. "Fine. Go on, Sakuya-san," he replied. Sakuya, seeing that she had got the permission, again looked at her fellow members' faces, asking them for a silent permission. Earning a small nods from every single one of them, she continued. We wanted to discuss about the shinobi career of the academy student Uzumaki Naruto, she finished with a slightly nervous look and voice. Hiruzen barely controlled the urge to unleash his full killing intent on all the fools in front of him and slaughter every single one of them. And what gave you or anyone the right to tell me what I must do with my ninja? And even though Uzumaki Naruto is not a ninja yet, he is a Shinobi Academy student and under my protection since the moment he was born. If that was the matter you wanted to confer about council members, then I am afraid you have wasted not only your time but my precious time too, he said in a deathly calm voice as if it was the calm before the storm. The civilian council paled at that, but some of them still tried to argue. But Hokage-sama, we must do something to keep him under our thumb. He contains the demon and restrictions must be placed on him so that he doesn't go berserk at the same time killing us all, exclaimed one of the members in panic. What if the seal breaks? We cannot let him be a shinobi and instead should place him in confinement for all the deaths he guh. The man was immediately pinned to the wall adjacent to the table by an Anbu member with long purple hair and a Neko mask with a strong hold on his neck. Many council members paled at seeing one of theirs manhandled, and that too by an Anbu member. The Sandame did not look surprised at the current situation and appeared as if he had expected it to happen. Yugo always had a soft spot for Naruto-kun. Maybe more than just a soft spot, he thought a bit perversely. He coughed to regain his thoughts. Neko, take him to Konoha prison and keep him there until we decide his sentence for his crimes, he ordered the Anbu, who soon vanished in a shushin. All the others had baffled expressions on their faces. Soon Sakuya tried to reason with him. Hokage-sama, you can't do that. We did no crime. We are just worried about the safety of this village when that child roams free on our streets, she reasoned, but the Hokage had enough of them. This is going to be my last warning to every single one of you here. If any one of you ever dares to talk or even think that I am going to treat Uzumaki Naruto any different from the rest of the village just because of your irrational fears, then you are in for a rude awakening. All of you are dismissed, he warned and stood up as he took walking towards the door to leave, but stopped to give one more admonition. The academy graduation exams are 1 week from now, and if anyone tries to sabotage Naruto's exam, you will be held responsible and put in prison for the rest of your lives. And with that he left. Flashback End. Sarutobi rubbed his temple to get rid of that early morning headache. Really, one would think that they would have given up on trying to make Naruto suffer more than they already have. Now if only all his ninjas, especially Kakashi, were that determined about their duties. While thinking these thoughts, he saw the regular academy report lying on his desk. He picked it up and read all the details about various students. His eyes particularly stopped at the Naruto's name. Scanning all his details, he could not help but heave a sigh. The boy had been the dead last of his class since the first year, sucked in academics, decent in weapons, had no definite taijutsu, inability to perform the Bunshin no jutsu, clone technique, and many other holes in his training. He knew that it was not Naruto's fault that he was unable to perform the clone technique, but he, Sandame, could not go against the rules and favor a single student. Damn it, the headache was increasing because of his current thoughts. He decided to look out at the village, which was a great view to his old eyes. Seeing the peace in his village always soothed his worries and headaches. He was just about to swivel his chair that he heard some noise outside. You can't go in there if you don't have an appointment, boy, shrieked a female voice. Definitely his secretary, only she had such shrill voice, and by the way she said the word boy with distaste, it wasn't hard to figure out who the other person was. Thought he would have to do something about her apparent dislike towards children. I don't care. I am going to see the Hokage and you can't stop me, yelled another voice stubbornly. Yep, definitely Naruto, though it sounded a bit different than it should be. As Hiruzen had expected, his door almost immediately was kicked open. But the sight he had expected was not the one he was seeing right now. Instead of a short boy in orange jumpsuit, short unruly blonde hair, and a slightly childish face, he saw a boy with an average height. Wearing a black full-sleeved shirt with an Uzumaki swirl in the front, dark blue shinobi pants with the kunai holster strapped to his right leg, and longer than he had imagined blonde hair with an angular face. It left him slack-jawed for a second but soon recovered from his shock. It had been at least 2 months since he had last seen Naruto, so he figured Naruto, must have hit a growth spurt, as it was common for boys his age. But it didn't mean that he wasn't curious about the changes he was currently seeing. Naruto smirked slightly at seeing the expression on the S&Ame's face. Even if it was just for a second, if he were his previous self he would have totally missed it, but he had found out that due to Amaterasu's power his body had not only developed physically but his senses, mental prowess had increased. The ability to notice even the slightest things was also included in his arsenal of abilities. He schooled his expression in a neutral one, which also made the Sarutobi raise an eyebrow. He had not forgotten how the Hokage had lied to him for all these years. It was time for action. You wanted to talk to me, Naruto-kun? Sandaime inquired, putting on an expression of mild amusement. But sadly Naruto was in no mood for it, and decided to go for it straight. Yes, Naruto nodded. I still cannot perform the clone technique, even after mastering all the chakra control exercises taught to us by Iruka-sensei and Mizuki-sensei. Sarutobi raised both of his eyebrows in surprise at hearing the seriousness in Naruto's voice. He was rarely serious about things, and the problem he said caused the old man to hide a wince. Even after all these years he was unable to understanding of Minato's seal. Therefore he was unable to guess the amount to chakra Naruto would have when he grew up, but it seemed he should have thought of a worst-case scenario. I see, so you want some more chakra control exercises. You could have asked Iruka, he would have helped, Sandaime offered. Naruto had known, or at least expected, the Sandaime to say this and had already come up with a plan. He shook his head in negative. No, I want some other clone technique that I can do. Iruka-sensei had taught us that there are more clone techniques, and surely you know more than one, Naruto answered in a bit of a pleading tone but still sporting a neutral look. The Sandaime was now confused due to Naruto's request, and was almost tempted to see if he really was Naruto or some imposter, but he could sense the chakra in Naruto that was special to him due to being Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. That aside, he thought about his Naruto request and the answer he should give. He could give him the shadow clone technique, but it would be against the rules. After contemplating for some time, he smiled towards Naruto in an apologetic manner. I am sorry, Naruto-kun. I do know more clone techniques, but it would be against rules to give you special treatment. All the academy students should get the same treatment. Seeing Naruto about to protest, he held up his hand. But I can give you more chakra control exercises that will definitely help you. Naruto made a thinking face at that, as if considering his offer, but inside his mind he was very angry at hearing the Sandaime's response to his as polite as he could manage request. Even now a major part of his brain was telling him to start yelling and questioning him about many things. But he had kept his patience for the time being, but hearing things like it would be against rules to give you special treatment. All the academy students should get the same treatment caused his already thin tolerance to almost tear into pieces. He so wanted to argue against the statement. He had seen it with his own two eyes the number of times Sasuke got special training from academy teachers after the academy hours. The number of times Sasuke got better kunai and shuriken from the sanctioned academy supply. The number of times he had seen the bastard getting scrolls and personal training from the Jonins who came for special lectures at the academy. He could not argue against the fact that Sasuke was talented. Not extremely so, but he still was. That was to be expected when you were born in a ninja clan, especially as powerful and with a rich shinobi heritage as the Uchiha clan, but it still did not change the basic facts that Sasuke had been getting special treatment. Not only him but all shinobi clan heirs, bar Shikamaru and Choji, as one was too lazy while the other liked eating more than anything, and the sons and daughters of council members got it too. In one form or other, he had no doubt that it was the reason why Kiba was just below Sasuke in taijutsu. Kiba had always been pitted against civilian students in him. He was no pushover when it came to taijutsu, but unlike Kiba, who had his clan's advanced taijutsu training, he had no definite style as the teachers sabotaged his studies. Many civilian students who trained hard for their future ninja careers were left discouraged because of this. Just like many civilian girls who entered the academy to become kunoichi, avoided becoming fangirls and focused more on training than looks, were isolated and picked on by girls of the dubbed Sasuke-kun fan club who concentrated more on looks than training, and as a result, the hard-working girls were forced to change themselves, focus more on looks, to adjust into the die-hard Sasuke fangirls, especially to avoid becoming targets for getting bullied. He had developed a particular dislike for Ino and Sakura. Yes, Sakura, after waking up and being able to think more clearly. He had questioned himself why he liked her so much. And came up with a blank. Sure, she was good looking with her long pink hair, but that was it. She did not have the graceful and ladylike movement or speech like Amaterasu. Abused him physically by hitting him almost daily, was extremely loud and had practically zero kunoichi skills. She was even weaker than him, duh. Besides, he liked Amaterasu more. He did not love her yet, but it was only a matter of time. But what he did know was that he would give his life for her without a moment's hesitation. She had done more things for him in a few minutes than anyone else had ever done, and also loved him for so many years. Damn, it was giving him a headache to think so many things. He mentally shook his head and focused his attention at his current situation. He had to get what he wanted from the old man. What to do? What to do? He racked his brain. I need to make him feel guilty, especially for him to think that I deserve it and I deserve it. Databio. He had stepped on my father's last wish and had blind faith in the villagers. That was the main reason for my life being so bad, but no more. I understand the villagers hate to some extent and can forgive them, but not him, not until he makes it up to me. Thinking deeply for a moment suddenly brought forth a very obvious fact in front of him, one that he had forgotten since yesterday. Naruto smiled a devious smile inside his mind that scared even the Kyuubi for a second. Naruto's face suddenly went from being neutral to sad, his eyes dropped in disappointment and emotional pain could be seen in his eyes. Sarutobi's heart ached at seeing Naruto's reaction to him denying him. Naruto, a clone technique. Naruto was a grandson to him in everything but blood. He had watched over Naruto personally for some days after his birth in the ceiling. He had been convinced that Naruto was a perfectly normal child in that period of time and had developed a deep bond with him. There was no way he would be able to look in Naruto's father's and mother's eyes after failing them for so many years, but something told him that if he denied his grandson figure this, he would forever lose his connection to him. Sighing tiredly due to this, he decided it was time he made up to Naruto for all the things he had suffered in his life. Alright Naruto-kun. I will give you a clone technique, he assured. It caused Naruto's sad face to blossom into a smile. But I will need some time to write it down in a scroll. Is it okay with you? Naruto nodded furiously on the outside while inside his mind, chibi Narutos could be seen running around with signs in their hands saying victory. Sarutobi smiled at seeing the smile on Naruto's face. It was nice to see his true smile occasionally. Su, when should I come to pick up the technique? Naruto asked excited. He may have matured a bit but was still a sucker for ninjutsu. Why don't you come in the evening? I will have it ready by that time, Sarutobi replied as he continued to smoke on his pipe while looking out of the window. Okay, Yane. As soon as Naruto turned around to leave, another idea suddenly clicked in his mind. I could ask for some tips for my training from him. After all, he is the best of the best, he thought. He was in a need for some serious training if he wanted to pass the graduations with flying colors. They were a week away and he needed to use every single second of it, and since all final year academy students are given a week off for personal training, he had decent chance to excel in the exams. Turning around again to face the Hokage, hey old man, can you give me some tips for my training, since I need to train for my exams and well you are the best ninja in the village. Anndd. He trailed off with his hand scratching the back of his neck and an embarrassed look on his face. Sarutobi turns back slowly to look at Naruto with a look of interest. Finding an embarrassed look on his face, he chuckled and decided to help him a bit more. So you have finally decided to get serious about your training, Naruto-kun? Chuckled the Sandame. Yeah, hey, what is that supposed to mean? Asked an indignant Naruto with an angry look on his face. Oh, nothing, Naruto-kun, nothing. Seeing Naruto about to protest, he put up a serious face. Now ahem. You said you wanted advice for your training, didn't you? He asked in a serious voice that startled Naruto. Naruto, nodded slowly. Then pay attention to what I am going to say as I want repeat it, coughing a bit to start his speech. He looked straight in Naruto's zero eyes. Naruto was able to see the infinite wisdom and experience in the old man's eyes, and at that point he knew that he was seeing the eyes of the feared Kami no Shinobi, and decided to memorize every single word that came out of the legend's mouth. Being a shinobi is not a very big deal. Anyone can become a shinobi after some training in the basic arts of ninjutsu, genjutsu and taijutsu. But being a true elite shinobi, you must know and understand many things. Firstly, a shinobi is a ninja, and a ninja is an assassin of the shadows. Master of stealth and deception, therefore one who desires to become a true shinobi. He must learn and master stealth along with deception. You must be able to make yourself unnoticeable, so it is good that you have decided to forego your orange jumpsuit. To train yourself in stealth, you must be able to move silently. At the same time, you must be able to camouflage yourself into the surroundings. It can be done by wearing suitable clothing and learning how to suppress your chakra signature. The best way to learn silent movement is to try and sneak up on normally alert animals like the Nara clan deers or animals with acute senses. He took a pause to mentally summon up his knowledge. Now that is out of the way, the second thing you need to know about being a true shinobi is physical conditioning. As you know, the chakra is made up of two parts, the spiritual sense and the physical sense. When one conditions himself physically, he is not only adept for fighting for a longer time due to higher stamina and more physical strength, but also has a stronger physical sense of chakra, which increases one's chakra density while simultaneously increasing the strength of your chakra. For physical conditioning, I recommend you to create your own rigorous physical workout regime, which should include all exercises taught in the academy and more. You can find many additional ones in the shinobi section of the public library. You can also buy training weights which will help you to increase your speed. Thirdly, you must understand this, that the strongest ninja is not the one with the most number of ninjutsu or genjutsu or the most powerful taijutsu. But the strongest ninja is the one with the strongest mind. Your mind is where your true power originates from. Your mind is the one that makes split-second decisions in a combat. Your mind is the one that stores all your knowledge. A strong mind is the one that protects you from mind-based attacks and genjutsu. It also helps you to keep your calm in tough situations and in strategizing. To train your mind you must perform meditation exercises. Playing strategy games like shogi is also recommended. I know you don't like studying and reading, but it helps if you know things about medicinal herbs, shinobi skills, basic geography, math and sciences. Again pausing to breath and see if Naruto was paying attention. He was pleased to see that Naruto was hanging on every single word and had a look of full attention, baffling him a bit. It was a rare sight after all. Placing his smoke pipe on the table after taking a single wisp of it, he continued in the same serious voice. The next is weapon skills. An average Jonin is capable of an accuracy of 10 out of 10 even at 50 meters and is able to throw even weapons like senbon with satisfactory precision. He also has some knowledge in kenjutsu and is a master of shuriken jutsu. For you, I would advise you to practice shuriken and kunai throwing until it reaches a satisfactory level. You can take up kenjutsu if you want, but either you will have to learn it on your own, which I would not recommend, or you will have to ask someone who knows it to train you in it. He looked up to make sure Naruto understood it. To be good at hand-to-hand combat you need to have a definite taijutsu style, which is something that your Jonin sensei will teach you if you pass the exams, of which I am sure you will pass with good grades, but currently I am afraid you will have to rely on the limited knowledge the public library provides, which includes some basic stances and forms you need to know to learn more advanced styles in the future. The skills like ninjutsu, genjutsu cannot be learned from library, I am afraid, and it totally depends on your Jonin sensei to teach you some. For now you can increase your chakra control as it helps to learn and master jutsu. I will add chakra control exercises in the scroll that I will give you. Finishing his lecture, the S and Aim's face changes from serious to slightly amusement after seeing Naruto's gobsmacked look. It turned to a slightly concerned look, thinking he had overloaded or broken poor Naruto's mind with his long lecture. Naruto had to admit that the old man knew things. He may have said he was angry at the Sandaime, but he had not expected to get such a thorough advice. He knew that he could have asked Amaterasu and she would have given a better one, but the fact that she was currently away and expected to be, at least for some time, he took it like a fish to water. He memorized every single word the Sandaime had said, which he found quite easy. Snapping out of his stupor, Naruto felt genuinely happy. Now he knew what he had to do to get stronger. Early in the morning when he had decided to train, he was clueless as to what his training should entail, but now all the questions regarding his training were answered and he wanted to start as soon as he could. Getting excited by this, he quickly thanked the Hokage. "Thank you, old man." With that he turned around to leave and reached for the door. Grabbing the handle he tuned to say some last few words with a mischievous smile. "Though you need to watch out from now on, old man. As with your advice I am going to get that hat from you much sooner." With that he left, leaving behind a smiling Sarutobi, who turned towards the wall where the pictures of all the previous Hokages were hanged. His gaze stopped particularly at the fourth. "I am sure you would have been proud of your son Minato." With Naruto, after leaving the Hokage tower, Naruto leapt on the nearest rooftop. His destination was to find a shop which sold shinobi utilities. He vaguely remembered purchasing weapons from a shop on the western side of the village some months ago. He remembered that particular one because it was the only shop which did not overprice him. Quickly moving in that direction he picked up speed due to excitement. He arrived in the western sector and sat on a rooftop to scan the area. Now Konoha was a very big hidden village with many people and shinobi living in it, so finding a single shop, even if in a particular area, was not an easy task. How am I supposed to search the whole area? Sighing in frustration. Leaping down on the street, he started to walk at the same time, ignoring the curious stares being sent his way as he continued to search for the shop. Thankfully it didn't take him long, only 20 minutes or so, as he recalled seeing a bring red banner just outside the shop from his last visit. Bells chimed as Naruto opened the door to enter the shop. Looking around he was glad that the interior of it matched with his memories. It was a fairly normal-looking store with various types of weapons hanging along the racks, some of which he did not even recognize. He made up his mind to make it as quick as possible and went near to counter to see if it was the same man who sold him the weapons the last time. However, as he went near it he was surprised to find a familiar-looking girl behind the counter who was busy reading a book. He tapped on the wooden desk to gain the familiar girl's attention. Tap tap. The girl suddenly looked up to see him and stood up while keeping the book aside. She had an embarrassed look and a slight blush on her face. Welcome to Daisuke's Weapons and Utilities Store. How may I help you, she said in an embarrassed tone and a small smile. Naruto got a good look at her face. She had shoulder-length light brown hair with two bangs framing her face. Her skin tone was fairer than his. Her face was somewhat triangular in shape with dark brown eyes and dimples due to her smile. She was an inch smaller than him, and was wearing a dark blue-colored half-sleeve t-shirt while he could not see anything below due to desk blocking his view. All in all, she looked quite pretty. It ticked in his mind where he had seen her. She was in the same class as he was. What was her name? Am I, Miko. Yes, that's right, her name was Miko, though I don't remember seeing her the last time, he thought. Naruto saw her eyes widen slightly in recognition and smirked. Naruto? Is that you? She asked, wide eyes and surprised voice, no doubt due to his sudden changes. Yeah, it's me, Naruto. I didn't know that you own this shop, he said while scratching the back of his head in a smile. He saw her blush slightly and shake her head. Looking at him, she asked. What happened to you? You look different and you got rid of your jumpsuit. He was fairly surprised to hear her question. He had thought she wouldn't care. Why yeah. Well, you can say that I hit a growth spurt of sorts and I just decided it was time to change my clothing as our graduation exams are close. I figured orange wasn't the best color for a ninja, he said, slightly embarrassed. She snorted. Yeah, it was an eyesore and I didn't even recognize you without it. An awkward silence of a few seconds followed as Naruto did not know how to respond to that. Thankfully it was broken by Miko. So are you here to buy some weapons? She queried. Naruto nodded. Yeah. I wanted some kunai and shuriken, and maybe some set of clothes. She nodded as she went inside the store to bring the required items while Naruto looked at the various katana at display and began to compare them to the katana Amaterasu gifted him, which he had kept at his house. He saw Miko return with 2 sets of shuriken and a set of kunai. Seeing this, he moved towards the counter. Will these many be enough? She asked him while showing the sets of weapons. Yeah, these will be enough, he replied with a smile which again caused a small blush to appear on her face. She kept the weapons aside and asked him to follow her inside. So what type of clothing you would like? She asked as they moved into the clothing section. She saw him browsing through a few shirts and frowned. Frankly, I don't have any idea about what type of clothing would suit me, he said a bit self-consciously in a small embarrassed smile. She sighed and shook her head with an amused smile. I really should be surprised by that, but here, let me select some good ones for you. You don't mind, do you? She asked, still amused as she moved besides him and started to go through various clothing. No, I don't. It helps though, as girls know more than boys in that department, Naruto said as he moved aside and leaned against the adjacent wall, and closed his eyes to think about his training. You know, it feels somewhat weird. I mean, talking to you like this. Hearing her quiet voice, he opened his eyes and saw she was still busy looking for something and had spoken while doing her work. After processing her statement, he frowned slightly. What do you mean? She pulled you a half-sleeved black shirt and kept it in the pile of clothing by her side. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good having a sensible talk with you for once. But in the academy, I always pictured you a very hyper boy and always trying to get a date with your Sakura-chan. Seeing you so calm and without your orange nightmare, it feels different and slightly weird. I saw you yesterday in the class, still acting and looking like usual, but such changes in a single day. I was just wondering, she explained herself while still browsing through some full-length pants, but stopping for a second to make quotation marks in the air. Naruto thought for a second about what he should tell her. What she was saying was the truth, there was no denying it, and he was an orange clown in love with his Sakura-chan till yesterday. He had got away with his changes from the Sandame, who had not seen him for a month or so and concluded his different appearance as a growth spurt, but what explanation should he give her? He decided that it was the best if he avoided saying anything about it. Well, I am surprised that you paid so much attention to me, he teased slightly. She turned and looked at him with a blank stare for a second and returned to do her thing. It's got nothing to do with paying attention to you, Baka. It's just that you were too loud to be ignored. She shot him down with a deadpan voice. Ah. I guess you were right there, he trailed as he eyed the growing pile of clothing besides the girl. Not to interrupt you or something, but don't you think those many will be enough? I don't think I can pay for more, he pointed out. Miko turned to him with a confused expression which he thought looked cute and saw him point at the heap of clothes besides her. There were 5 sets of pants and shirts in various dark colors. She blushed and gave a hurried nod as she collected the garments and moved into the front with an amused Naruto behind her. She went behind the counter and rang up the price while still sporting a blush. She had been so caught up in their conversation that she had forgotten what she was doing. She had always wanted to have a chat with him as she was inspired by the way he never gave up in his hard work. She herself was a girl with a civilian background, and so it was difficult for her to compete with other students with a shinobi background. She had once been a target of bullying by the Sasuke-kun fan club girls, but she never gave in to them. It also helped that Sasuke was not a person of interest to her. It was after seeing Naruto struggle and never give up that she decided to follow his example. Not that Naruto knew any of these things. She handed him his goods and he paid the required money. "Thank you for helping me, Miko. I really appreciate it," he said as he moved to leave. As she looked on, she suddenly got an idea. "Hey Naruto," he looked back at her and raised an eyebrow seeing her shy look. "I know you are not good in academics and you are better than me in some things. So if you would like to study or train together, we can do it sometime this week." Seeing both his eyebrows raised in surprise, she added, "That is, if you want to." She finished. Naruto's surprise could be clearly seen on his face. He had not expected her to say something like this in a million years, but figured it would be nice to have a friend. "Alright, I'll let you know when I am free," he agreed with a smile. Miko smiled and waved him as goodbye. Naruto waved in return as he left and closed the door behind his back. He completely missed Miko's lingering gaze in his form as he left. Naruto started walking towards his home with the thoughts of Miko's unexpected request on his mind. He was so engrossed in it that he completely missed the presence of his stalker who had come dangerously close to him but escaped with an embarrassed. The night before the graduation exams, Konoha with Sarutobi Hiruzen Hokage's office. Sarutobi Hiruzen was sitting on his chair facing towards the window, the smoke pipe in his hand, and a pensive expression on his face. The lights of the room were turned off and his figure was bathed in moonlight. The Hokage's office is a busy place for most of the day. The duty of being the Sandaime Hokage left no free time for the aged Sarutobi Hiruzen. A man in his 70s, who even though was the strongest ninja in the village, was a man who enjoyed peace. That was the reason he struggled, and shed blood for his precious village. For the people, but those people were growing corrupt as days passed by. During the times of war, the people of the village worked hard to earn money, to feed the ninja, to preserve the will of fire that the Shodem and the Nindem taught about. But now, in the times of peace, the same people, as well as ninja, were growing arrogant of their power, arrogant their money, arrogant of the peace. He admitted that it was partly his fault. He loved his people too much, so much so that he let them get away for making a small child suffer for things that the child was not even aware of, suffer from things that the child had no control of, and it had cost him, it had cost all of them. The same child had grown up. The same child was growing strong. The child's eyes were no more bright pools of joy, they had become the eyes of a determined shinobi. Sarutobi was one of the few people who knew Uzumaki Naruto's heritage. Along with the elders, the clan heads, Kakashi Hatake, and Shimura Danzo, the boy's parents were some of the strongest shinobi ever born. Most determined, compassionate and loving, but absolutely ruthless to those who made this world a dire place. The combination of those genes would no doubt create a monster of a shinobi, but still with his ideals and morals. He had lost count of the number of times the old war hawk, Danzo, had asked for Naruto's custody to train him into a weapon, but he had disagreed. He had faith in the child, that the child would rise above his sufferings. He would use his pain to make himself stronger. He would strive to gain acknowledgement of the village and achieve his dream to become the Hokage. But now, his hope looked bleak. He had seen the eyes of the child. They were different. The eyes which were once as easy to read like an open book had turned into fathomless oceans. The Anbu who was assigned to watch over the boy had given interesting reports. The boy was growing rapidly in strength. In a week's time his grandson figure had apparently come up with a very strange yet with the potential to become very powerful taijutsu style, and people said the boy was a dead last. If he previously had any doubts about Naruto's potential, they had vanished without a trace in this week. He had used his crystal orb to see Naruto train almost every day, but only for as much time as his duties provided. The boy's progress in weapons, stealth, taijutsu, chakra control had left even him, who had seen and observed prodigies like Tsukumo Hatake, Orochimaru, Minato Namikaze, Itachi Uchiha, Kakashi Hatake, Tsunade Senju, Shisui Uchiha and many more, baffled. The boy, whose weapon accuracy had been average for an academy student, was now Chunin level. He was sure that the strange taijutsu style his grandson figure had come up with had the potential to rival the Hyuga clan's Juken. The boy had already started to master the water walking exercise. He had to admit it was partly due to the smart use of the shadow clone technique, as he had told Naruto personally the secret behind it and why only he would be able to use it effectively. Nevertheless, the boy did not know that the technique was brought to Konoha by Mito Uzumaki from the Uzumaki clan. It also pained in his old heart to lie to the boy about him not knowing his, Naruto, parents and about the Kyuubi's secret, but he had done it, and for the sake of the child to have a normal childhood, he had created various laws with strict penalties, but alas, they did little to help the situation. He wished so much right now that he could go back in time and slap his other self to do the right things. While Naruto was still like his previous self, just a bit more serious, sarcastic, talented and physically different, there were only brief flashes of his prior mentality. Although it was a good thing that he had decided to take his shinobi career seriously, the Sandame still missed the orange jumpsuit wearing Naruto. Also, he, Sandame, had noticed that Naruto was containing a certain emotion during their last talk. He did not know what it was, but it certainly spiked his curiosity. Now Naruto had not expressed anger or hostility towards the village, but he was still the village's Jinchuriki, so anything concerning him was treated as a severe topic. He was certain most of the Jinchuriki hated the people of the village they belonged to, but he had hoped that Naruto would not turn out like the others, and he believed it till last week. I am getting nowhere with this. There has to be some reason for the sudden change in Naruto. People don't change so fast, I know, but what could be the reason? Sandame leaned back to look in the star-filled night sky. Is Danzo responsible for this? There are no other elements in the village who would dare to influence Naruto under my watch. Only Danzo would be so daring, but why wait for so many years then? And why would he be so obvious? He would have made sure to not let me get any hints. He took a deep whiff from the pipe and exhaled slowly in the cold night air. His lips slowly curved into a small hollow and knowing smile. Maybe. Even he realized that there is not much time left for our generation to live. He pulled the Hokage hat down slightly so that his eyes were shadowed partially, and with the small hollow smile, it looked a truly terrifying visage. What are you planning, Danzo? Underneath Konoha sewers with Danzo, the said man. Danzo was sitting in a dimly lit room. Behind a table, and a shinobi with a blank white mask and shadowed clothing was kneeling in front of him. Danzo had black shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged. He had had an X-shaped scar on his chin ever since his youth. He wore a white shirt, with a brown robe over top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. A cane which he used to walk was leaning on the table. He was currently reading a scroll with a frown on his face. It was clear that he was not happy with whatever was written in it. He finished reading and rolled it back up and placed it in a drawer. What are your orders, Danzo-sama? The kneeling shinobi asked in a blank voice. Danzo barely listened to his subordinate because his mind was currently trying to understand the current situation. This is very troubling. I had taken a huge risk and a lot of effort to sabotage and limit the development of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki so that I could recruit him in the route in the future. But this sudden increase in his skills, as well as the use of shadow clone technique for training, can cause problems for my plans for him. It is obvious that Sarutobi had to do something with it, as he is the only one who can give that boy the technique, and the boy's increase in skills in a single week is also troubling. I must take necessary steps to either stop that boy's growth or rush my plan for his recruitment, but I have no doubt that Sarutobi is keeping an eye on that boy. I need to have some patience. Looking up at his subordinate, do nothing, for now, continue to monitor his development, and I want special reports on the development of the strange taijutsu style that the boy is currently learning. Hi Danzo-sama. With that, the white-masked shinobi disappeared in a shushin. The strange taijutsu was another thing that had caught Danzo's interest. According to his subsidiary's report, the Jinchuriki was in that process of learning a rather new and odd taijutsu style. Now he was a veteran shinobi. He knew of all taijutsu styles in Konoha and could recognize many from outside Konoha too, but the style the boy was practicing was a complete anomaly and it intrigued him. He was not surprised by the boy's sudden growth in skills, as he was one of the few people who knew about his true heritage, not restricting to being the son of Namikaze Minato but also his legendary Uzumaki blood, which will no doubt make the boy a monster on the battlefield, and it seemed that Sarutobi had finally recognized the boy's potential, but the timing had caused one of his long-term plans to derail. No, my plan is not ruined, things are still salvageable, and I just need to make my next moves carefully. Leaving the matter with those thoughts, he picked up another report that was lying in front of him. His eye gleamed slightly as he read the name of the person, which was of particular interest to him, maybe more than the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Uchiha Sasuke Naruto's apartment with Naruto. Naruto was lying on his bed wearing his nighttime clothes, which he had bought from Maiko's shop. The lights of his room were turned off, and darkness with some faint light filled the room. Many people would have thought that the boy was asleep, but his open blue eyes staring at the ceiling was a dead giveaway that he was far from asleep. Naruto's mind was currently a whirlwind of thoughts, and unsurprisingly most of them revolved around Amaterasu. Well, not exactly around her, but around the gift she had given him, or rather sent to him. No, it was not the beautiful katana he was talking about. It was a medium-sized scroll that was lying beside his bed and next to the katana. When he had arrived home from Maiko's store, he had found the scroll lying next to the katana. When he opened it and looked inside, he was surprised to find a small note from Amaterasu saying that it was another surprise present for him. Only after going through some things written inside it, did he realize that whatever was written inside it was the beginner-level material to learn a taijutsu style. His eyes had grown moist to the point that it would have taken only a single push in the right direction for him to start sprouting tears of joy, not unlike some of the youthful guys. The said taijutsu style was very odd, he decided, not bad but odd. He had to revise his own katas taught to him in the academy to even start learning it. The style as far as he had practiced depended on various factors. Mainly his flexibility, reaction speed, strength, body balance and many other things. That was no surprise though every taijutsu style depended on those factors. The oddest thing was that it required very minimal to no chakra. Now, as far as he had read about taijutsu in the library in the past week, he knew that most ninjas used chakra to increase speed and strength of the body, especially during a taijutsu duel, but the writings in the scroll strictly forbid him from doing this. While practicing during the week's time, he had wondered about the reason for this but ended up with a blank answer. Maybe he will find the reason when he would advance more in it, or maybe he could ask Amaterasu when she visits him again. That brought up another matter of thought. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, had confessed her love for him a week ago. Now that was one of the, if not the best thing that has happened to him for a long time. Hell, it was the best thing in his whole life so far. So what was his problem regarding that issue? It was simple. He did not know what to make of it, of course. If someone loved him, he would love the person back. But how was he supposed to do that when he had only met her once, and as far as he could derive from their conversation, she could spend only a limited amount of time in the land of the living. Maybe after his death he would go to heaven and then they can spend eternity together. But what was he supposed to do in his living years? Of course, he had his dreams for the future. That was not the point, but the real point was, what about his love life? A man is supposed to love only a single woman romantically at a given time, and if he was to return Amaterasu's love, he would have to remain single and unmarried among his peers for his whole life. And what if some girl fell for him in the meantime? He wasn't in a hurry to find her reaction to that. He shuddered slightly at the image of Amaterasu going all sun goddess on that supposed girl. Naruto shifted his body to turn on one side. His face showed that there were many confliction thoughts going through his mind right now. "I'll think about it some other time," he murmured slightly as he observed the moon. There were still things he needed to sort out before getting some sleep. The Kyuubi and his mother, Uzumaki Kushina, topped the list. He still found it hard to believe that the Kyuubi no Yuko, the mighty beast of destruction, was sealed inside his gut. How was he supposed to react to it? Of course, he could freak out about it, but Naruto Uzumaki was not that kind of a person. He knew that freaking out would not do him any good, and besides, Amaterasu had assured him that he was not a monster, merely a container. However, that did not eliminate his anxiety fully. The second thing that was bothering him was the lack of information about his mother. During the past week, he had been sending a dozen clones to the library to study various subjects like geography, science, history, politics, etc. Nevertheless, to his disappointment, his clones were not able to read and memorize as much as he had expected them to. But it was still enough to get him through his graduation exams safely. Among his dozen clones, he had appointed 2 of them to search upon the name Uzumaki. He had initially thought that if he was given his mother's last name, then maybe there was a possibility that sometime in the history there must be an Uzumaki family. It turned out that he was wrong. He had sent his clones to the part of the library where basic information about every single family to have existed in Konoha was stored. It was mainly created to help orphans to search information about their family, but to his surprise, there was no mention of Uzumaki name anywhere. Then he thought that maybe he should look for his mother's name, and he dare say it was not easy. His clones had scanned through various history books and archives to find even a shred of clue for the rest of the week, but came up with nothing. It was very frustrating, to say the least. There was a lot of thing about his father, including the tales about his legendary Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique, and how he used it to win the war against Iwagakure no Sado, village hidden in rocks. He was in awe and filled with pride, but it came crashing down when he realized that he knew next to nothing about his mother, not even how she looked. After his clones finished studying in library today, he decided he would ask Amaterasu about his mother during their next meet. It only increased his excitement to see the goddess once again. He turned his head to look at the clock. It is late. I should get some sleep. After all, tomorrow is a big day of my life, and with that last thought Naruto let sleep take over him. Graduation Day Shinobi Academy with Naruto. Naruto was sitting on one of the last benches in his academy classroom with a bored look on his face. So far he was the only one sitting in the class, and it was boring to say at least. He had woken up early in the morning and rushed to the academy in his excitement to finally become a ninja, and had conveniently forgotten in the process that the academy was scheduled to start an hour later than on normal working days. He had spent a whole minute in the process of banging his head on his desk to compensate for it. He was dressed in a dark red shirt with mesh visible underneath it. Black shinobi pants. The ends were bandaged, and his feet covered with black shinobi sandals with a weapons pouch tied to his right leg to finish his look. Miko herself had insisted he go with this look as she said it suited him and made him look cool. Now Naruto did not consider himself as a person who bothered himself a lot with his looks or showing off in front of others, but even occasionally it was nice to look good, especially since none of his classmates had seen his changes. It will be fun to see them try to figure out just who this new personality was. Almost half an hour had passed and Naruto was lying with his head down on his desk. After a few more minutes a few students started to trickle inside the class, and soon the whole class was filled with chattering kids aspiring to become ninja. While most of the students were ignoring him as he was still lying with his head down, a few girls, as well as boys, did look in his direction with confused looks as if trying to figure out who he was. When there was less than 15 minutes left for the academy to start, Naruto felt someone tap on his shoulder to get his attention. Looking up, he was not surprised to see Miko grinning at him, but what surprised him was her choice of wardrobe. She was dressed in a long-sleeved black top and a light purple apron skirt, under which she was wearing black shorts along with a pair of ninja sandals and dark-colored stockings that reached until her thighs. Rin's outfit. Overall, she looked very attractive, and he could see through the corner of his eyes that many boys were giving her appreciative looks. Not that he could blame them. Even he would have been unable to resist himself. Damn hormones. Naruto thought as he blushed slightly and looked away for a second. After composing himself, he looked towards Miko and smiled. Nice look, he complimented. Miko's face gained a slight pink tinge as he said that and shyly looked at him. Thanks. You don't look bad either, saying that she sat at the empty seat beside him. They stayed silent for a few moments as both of them surveyed the class and noticed that they were attracting attention from some of their fellow classmates but chose to ignore it. Soon both of them heard a series of squeals from various girls and instantly knew that Sasuke had just entered the class. It was not surprising as it was an everyday routine for them. Sasuke came into their field of vision and took a seat near the window. Both of them could see all his fangirls hovering around him like hungry vultures looking ready to pounce. It's my last day in the academy, and even after 6 years of being in the same class as him I still don't understand what the other girls see in him. I mean, he has that dark mysterious look going for him, but other than that he is the biggest jerk in the whole class, Miko stated bluntly. Hearing that, Naruto turned to look at her with surprise and newfound respect. Miko, seeing his look, just shrugged. Well, I knew you were not like his fangirls, but it is the first time a girl from our class must have said it so openly. Usually, the team's fangirls can pick up such a statement from a long distance and hunt down the poor guy who said it, but I guess they don't expect a girl to say such a thing. Naruto replied as he kept an eye on the fangirls to see if they sensed a disturbance in their force, but they seemed to be lost in their own Sasuke-kun world. Well, I am not like them, at least I hope you don't think I am. She smiled in a dangerous way, which immediately put him on the alert. He had to placate her as he had seen over the past week that an angry Miko was a dangerous Miko. He raised his hands in his defense and at the same time to calm her down. You know that I think you are better than them from our first meeting itself last week. He reasoned with her with a slightly nervous smile, which seemed to calm her down a bit. Hi. I at least know that much about you. Her deadly smile faded and he sighed in relief. Close one, he thought. He did not want a repeat performance of their training from last week, during which he had accidentally angered her enough to start beating him into pulp. How could such a pretty and harmless-looking girl hold so much power? Her punches, hell never know. Nevertheless, he did know not to anger her ever again. You know, even if he is a big jerk, you are forgetting that he is still the heir of the most powerful clan in the village, and not to mention he is the last of the same clan. That might be enough for most of the girls to fawn over him, he replied to her previous question while pointedly looking in the Uchiha's direction. Miko, hearing his reply, frowned slightly and thought about it. It did make sense when he put it that way, not to mention Sasuke would probably be the owner of the whole fortune, jutsu, etc. of his clan. That was enough for most of the ignorant to fall at his feet, which sadly included many shinobi of the village. Yeah, I guess he does have that going for him, was her honest reply. Just a second after that, both of them heard a loud rumbling sound and looked towards the door as they both knew what was approaching. The door slid open. I was first, Shanaru, screamed one of the two girls who had just entered the classroom. She had long pink hair, and a large forehead, wore a dark red dress and dark-colored short leggings. "Can it forehead? I was here first," screamed the other girl in reply, who had long blonde hair, was wearing a purple dress with exposed mid-rift. "Here they go. Sakura and Ino," Naruto groaned as he watched the two girls rush past them to take seats beside Sasuke. Miko looked at him with amusement on her face. She had just recently come to know about his special dislike toward Sakura and could not help but tease him about it. "Why are you so annoyed? Aren't you gonna try and get a date with your favorite girl in class?" Sarcasm flowed like a river from her statement. Naruto gave her a deadpan look and simply banged his head on his desk. "Please don't even joke about it," was his muffled reply. Soon the whole class had assembled and the class instructors walked in holding a huge stack of papers. Both of them stood in the center as Mizuki stacked all the papers on the table. "Alright, quiet down everybody. Today we will be conducting the final graduation exams and it will determine whether or not you are fit to be a shinobi of the Leaf Village. I know everyone here is excited, but I need you to focus as this day will be one of the most important days in your life," started Amino Iruka, who was the Chunin instructor. He was wearing standard Chunin attire. His hairs were tied in a ponytail and had a scar going across his nose. "The exam will be held in multiple parts. The first part will include the written test, which everybody has to pass to become a genin. The second part includes the weapons accuracy test. The third is the taijutsu test, in which one student will be pitted against another. Moreover, last but not the least, the ninjutsu exam, where you will have to perform the basic 3 ninjutsu taught to you in the academy. Performing all 3 is compulsory to get your headband." Mizuki started distributing the papers row-wise to everybody. "The first test starts now, and cheating will lead to immediate disqualification. Good luck," finished Iruka with a smile. Naruto and Miko were sitting side by side and soon Mizuki handed them their papers. "All the best, Naruto," Miko said with a smile. "Same to you, even though you don't need it," Naruto replied with a grin of his own. The time allotted for the written test was 1 hour, which was more than enough for Naruto to complete the test and gain enough marks to clear it. He finished it with just 5 minutes to spare, after looking over the paper thoroughly to make sure he did not miss anything. He turned it over and put his pencil down, smiling with satisfaction. He crossed his hands behind his head and leaned back to observe the rest of his classmates. Predictably, most of the students were done with their papers and simply looking around, with a few exceptions like Sakura, Ino and the rest of the fangirls were looking at Sasuke. A few boys similarly were staring at Miko, who was lost in her own world with a thoughtful look on her face. Moreover, the last exception being Hinata, who was blushing and sneaking glances at him at the same time, twiddling her fingers in front of her. Weird. Thanks for watching, Chad.